For years, Washington saw India as its most dependable ally in Asia. Since the end of the Cold War, a bipartisan consensus held that the world's largest democracy was the natural strategic partner to counterbalance China's growing influence. This relationship, built on shared values and mutual economic interests, was considered a cornerstone of American foreign policy. But that carefully constructed image is now beginning to fracture. Donald Trump's decision to impose sweeping, unilateral tariffs has shaken the partnership to its core, and New Delhi's unexpectedly firm reaction has stunned even veteran observers, signaling a dramatic shift in geopolitical calculus. At the center of this storm stands Apple, the very symbol of American innovation. Following years of escalating U.S.-China trade tensions and supply chain disruptions, Apple made a monumental pivot. The company, along with its key suppliers, poured billions into India, aiming to transform the country into a new global manufacturing hub for its iPhones. This move was hailed as a masterstroke, creating tens of thousands of local jobs and de-risking its vast operations from China. That grand strategy now looks dangerously unstable. What began as an economic dispute is quickly escalating into a political earthquake. One that could redraw global alliances, push India closer to China, and challenge the supremacy of the US dollar. For decades, successive American administrations viewed India as the perfect partner, a vibrant democracy of 1.4 billion people, with a rapidly growing economy, strategically positioned right beside China. But the Trump administration's tariff gamble has exposed just how fragile that partnership truly is. The timeline began with initial levies in 2018. Convinced that economic pressure would force New Delhi to yield on trade imbalances, Washington slapped tariffs on foundational Indian exports like steel and aluminum. The list soon expanded to include textiles and even vital pharmaceuticals, hitting industries that employ millions and form the backbone of India's economy. The assumption was that India would have no choice but to concede. That assumption was a profound miscalculation. In a sharp escalation of trade disputes, India has responded not with concessions but with countermeasures. Instead of backing down from new U.S. tariffs, New Delhi pushed back hard. Reports now confirm the Indian government is preparing to freeze approvals for major U.S. projects, a move that puts Apple's billion-dollar expansion directly in the crosshairs. For Washington, this represents a significant strategic miscalculation. Apple had painstakingly moved a portion of its production from China to India, a strategy designed to de-risk its supply chain from U.S.-China tensions. Now, with factories under construction potentially being halted, the tech giant finds itself caught in a new and unexpected geopolitical trap. Apple's predicament reveals a deeper crisis in global manufacturing. For over a decade, its fortunes were tied to China's industrial base. As geopolitical tensions mounted, Apple executed a strategic pivot towards India, drawn by its immense labor pool and a government eager for investment. This wasn't just about moving assembly lines. The goal was to replicate its complex supplier ecosystem, with partners like Foxconn and the Tata Group investing billions. The plan was for 1 in 4 of all new iPhones to be assembled in India by 2027, a landmark shift Washington hailed as proof of a burgeoning strategic partnership. But that carefully constructed plan is now at risk of unraveling. Emboldened by its economic ascent, New Delhi is demonstrating it will not be dictated to. Citing sources within the government, Bloomberg reports that even ongoing Apple-related projects could have their permits frozen. This places billions in committed investment and a crucial global supply chain in the balance. Behind this high-stakes standoff is a fundamental shift. India is shedding its identity as a junior partner. With GDP growth projected above 6% and foreign reserves topping $650 billion, New Delhi now possesses significant economic leverage and a newfound confidence to wield it. The message sent by the potential Apple freeze is unambiguous. India is now willing to use its economic gravity as a diplomatic lever, a strategy long perfected by China. And as this dispute unfolds, a quieter shift is taking shape. Behind closed doors, Indian and Chinese delegations have reportedly met to discuss settling bilateral trade in their own currencies, the rupee and the yuan, bypassing the US dollar. This is a practical step towards insulating their economies from Western financial pressures. These discussions are a prelude to the upcoming BRICS Plus summit, where creating alternatives to Western-dominated financial systems will be a key focus. For Washington, the implications are deeply alarming. The very nation courted as a democratic counterweight to China is now demonstrating a clear policy of multi-alignment, proving it can act on an equal footing with both Beijing and Washington, charting its own course in a multipolar world. For Apple, this means more than lost profits. It represents another severe geopolitical shock to its global supply chain. If India halts production, the consequences cascade outwards. We're talking about immediate delays and global shortages, but also financial losses that ripple through a vast network of suppliers and logistics partners. For a company built on just-in-time manufacturing, such a disruption could shake investor confidence and erase billions in market value. And for America's tech sector, the blow could be even deeper. Indian engineers make up a major share of the U.S. innovation workforce, over 200,000 in companies like Google, Amazon, and Microsoft. If relations sour, this vital pipeline is at risk. New visa restrictions or policy barriers could severely disrupt this talent lifeline, making it harder for Silicon Valley to attract and retain the world's best minds. Strategically, Washington risks something even greater, losing influence in Asia. For decades, India was meant to be the democratic counterbalance to China, a cornerstone of U.S. policy in the region. But if New Delhi shifts its alignment even towards strategic neutrality, that vision collapses, leaving a power vacuum that Beijing would be eager to fill. Analysts across the world are warning. Foreign Affairs writes that India is no longer a junior partner, but a power center in its own right. The Guardian calls it a geopolitical earthquake. This isn't just a trade dispute, it's a powerful sign that the era of unchallenged U.S. dominance is fading, giving way to a multipolar world where influence must be negotiated, not simply assumed. At the heart of this crisis lies the U.S. dollar. For nearly a century, it has been the foundation of global power, used in 80% of world trade and held as reserves by most central banks. This gives Washington extraordinary leverage. But now countries like India and China are exploring ways to bypass it. According to the Financial Express, both nations are preparing to discuss new payment systems at the BRICS Plus summit, allowing trade in rupees and yuan. If adopted, this could reroute hundreds of billions in global energy transactions and weaken the dollar's supremacy. The logic is simple. The less they rely on the dollar, the less vulnerable they are to U.S. sanctions or financial pressure. It's a move toward economic sovereignty, and that's the real danger for Washington. It's not about a sudden collapse, but the steady erosion of trust. Once confidence in the dollar as the world's default currency starts to erode, as alternatives become viable, that foundational power rarely returns. The deeper story here isn't just about tariffs, factories, or iPhones. It's about the shift of global power. Washington thought it could use tariffs to bring India closer. Instead, it may have pushed it into Beijing's embrace, and in the process, weakened the very currency that underpins American strength. The question now is chillingly simple. If even its closest partners begin to walk away, who will still stand with the United States? Stay tuned. The global balance is changing right before our eyes.